Cross-Side, and I am your host, Bryant. And this evening, I have two friends of mine joining us to discuss the topic related to marriage, or we could put it this way, their journey to marriage. And so before we dive in and I have them briefly introduce themselves, let me read a quote to you by Martin Luther. He says, "There is no more lovely, friendly, and charming relationship, communion, or company than a good marriage." Amen to that. Those of you who have been married or who are married know that there's no more truer statement than that. Marriage is a beautiful thing, and I'm glad to have this wonderful married couple joining us this evening. They will share a little bit about themselves and about their journey to marriage. So tonight we have Louie and Alyssa Munoz joining us. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on, for sure.
Thank you for joining us. Would you guys briefly mind introducing yourselves a little bit?
Sure. I'll go first. I'm Louie. And currently I work at Londo Christian Health Center, which is a place that you and your wife both worked at in the past. And at least until the end of June, I am also a worship director at a PCA church in Oak Park. Yeah, I forgot where it was. In Oak Park.
Come on, man, you don't know where you go to church?
And then yeah, and I'm also seeking ordination right now in the PCA church. So
good stuff. And you're married to this lovely lady. What's her name?
Yes.
My name is Alyssa. I work at Moody Bible Institute, another place that Brian worked at. I took over his position.
And she's doing a better job than I was.
And just settling into wifehood and walking the Christian life. And also a student pursuing my degree in hopefully photography and business. So
good stuff.
My main things right now.
Good stuff. Yeah, you guys work at two good places, and I'm glad you guys are both, continuing your education and studying and prepping for whatever the Lord may have in store for you guys in the hopefully near future now. So yeah, how did you? Let's start out with this question. How did you guys meet?
Yeah, so we met at I used to work at Inner City Impact as a high school coordinator, and in the Cicero location. And every year, at least before COVID, they would go out on a retreat that was also frequented by Armitage Baptist Church.
It was hosted,
it was hosted by them. And then Edgewater Baptist and Midwest Bible Church. And I went representing ICI, Inner City Impact. And I was able to be a cabin counselor. And then also
Presbyterians everywhere, by the way. Hanging out with all these Baptists.
I was the only Presbyterian there. And a lot of people would drill me on baptism. They say, hide the babies when they come around.
Oh, boy. I apologize on behalf of my fellow Baptists.
And then I came from Armitage as a counselor. I think I was doing 3 roles in that year. I was a counselor, photographer, and musician for the worship team.
With Army Knife.
Yeah.
So I was doing all 3 of those, and then Louie was also serving on the team, so that's kind of how we initially met pre-camp rehearsals.
And did you guys continue to talk or hang out beyond that first encounter, or you guys first met?
No, not really.
I mean, the only time that's a question we get a lot. Like, I think they want to make it Hollywood-esque, like, oh man, did you guys, see each other and just fell in love right at the moment, saw one another. But really, like, the only times we ever reached out, it was more me reaching out to her, and before anything else, it was because I wanted her to play like music in a gig that I got or something like that. It was like strictly like music.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you wanted her to play your heartstrings or something. Tug them. But continue.
Yeah. So aside from that, it was just always like, to play music. She would always
come up with it was legit reasons though.
Yeah.
It wasn't like dissing you or anything.
Yeah.
I would never be able to do it by the providence.
Even though he probably felt like he was being dissed at the time.
Well, I did, because I was like, man, I guess she doesn't like playing like the type of music that I was pitching her way or whatever.
And I also didn't really know him well enough to be like, okay, I would be down for that. I was busy, and then I didn't really know you.
Yeah. So
good job avoiding this man.
Yeah. So lo and behold, though, the funny thing is like after, I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 years of me asking her, and her saying.
That was 2017. Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistent.
Yep. And so her continually saying no, no, no. So she was also consistent.
Playing hard to get.
That's right. And the funny thing is what actually connected us is her asking, or is someone else asking for me to come play. And then
that was also on the team.
Yeah.
At Phantom Ranch. So he asked us individually, but we didn't know that each of us were asked.
Yeah.
So we just showed up at this church.
And then this person wasn't playing. We were the people that were just playing. It was just us two.
So it was intentional matchmaking.
Exactly.
Providential
matchmaking.
Always.
Yeah. So that's when we kind of reconnected at the church in Cicero, which I didn't even know he lived in Cicero.
Yeah.
That was where it was during COVID. So.
And Louie, why were you interested in her? Why were you like being so persistent? What was the root cause of that persistence?
Yeah. Well, initially the persistence was strictly music, but afterward,
was it really?
I can say in 100% certainty. But the thing what it was afterwards is when we played together in Cicero for that service, something shifted. I texted her every day. She responded every day.
His first text, this is a little side story. His first text to me, because the day that we played together was the day Kobe Bryant died.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
His first text to me was, "Did you hear that Kobe Bryant died?"
Good way to open up the conversation, man.
Yeah, that's right.
So now we remember the date exactly because it was the day that Kobe died.
Look at that. Oh, man.
Funny, like just the start of the conversation.
Yeah.
So why were you interested in her? I'm so interested, curious about that.
Yeah, it was
what shifted?
I think what shifted was the fact that so after we played, we were able to the church, and we haven't mentioned the name, so and there's nothing wrong with this either. The church was very, very, very small. So as a result of that, like we had some time to like chat, like in between different things. And I don't know, I just felt like there was something different, like from the last time that I saw her and we were face to face with one another, like something just was different. There was a different tenor, a different feel. And as a result of that, I didn't know what that was, and I was still curious. So it like my appetite was sparked and wet to a place where it said, whatever this is, I want to see what it is, because this is unlike any type of conversation that I've had with anyone else, or unlike any type of see, I think that as I looked at so afterwards, I went out to eat with a friend of mine. We went to go get some tacos, and that's when I found out that Kobe had died. And of course, I could have reached out to anyone, but in my head, I will shamelessly say, in my head, what I thought was, well, maybe if I reach out to Alyssa, maybe, and I tell her, oh, did you hear that Kobe died? That can spark text messages that are more than just talking about music.
The true intention has been revealed,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
So, and lo and behold, it worked. I got married. So,
thank you, Kobe.
That's right. But yeah, but that's where I was at. I mean,
he would be proud of you. That's that Mamba mentality he talks
that's right.
about.
That's Mamba mentality for sure.
I think I don't know if my messages were more like straightforward, blasé, maybe. I don't know. Were they? Because I was like, I don't want to give attention to something that I don't know what it is. So I was
right.
Yeah, and she was not. I learned early on too, like flatteries is not gonna get her, you know. And I think knowing that early on, it also gave me a tenor to see too, like what I was looking for at that time was really nothing. Like I wasn't looking, but what I was looking at that time was more than anything else, like, okay, this has to be serious. And if it's serious, then having someone being susceptible to flatteries is something that I didn't want. So.
And so what did you do, Alyssa, as this continued on and as you guys kept just talking, and what happened?
I think after a few messages, just like seeking counsel, and like what, because I mean, I never talked to a guy like that. So I was like, what is this? And just seeking counsel from others. I came to a point where I was like, well, let me just blatantly ask him, like, where are you going with this? What's your intentions with this?
Well done. Straight to the heart.
I was like, I'm not gonna put my heart out there, and I also want to protect yours too. So I was pretty straightforward about it. And then he took like 2 hours, 3 hours to respond to me. But
he probably has some made up excuse why he took so long to respond.
Well,
he later told me that he was in a meeting. But
fair.
So I was in a
in quotes meeting.
Yeah.
with his own feelings. He's like,
that's
oh
right.
man.
Yeah, I was in a meeting, but I will say that and I had mentioned this to her too, like it did stop me in my track to say, all right, evaluate this before you disregard a good thing or take too lightly a very precious thing. And so I really did pause and say, okay, let me answer that question for myself, and let me see what this actually is and what this looks like and what are my intentions. And yeah, I responded and I said, because I think the question was, yeah, would you like to meet? If that's the case, then you have to talk to my dad. And so I said, all right, let's do it. I was terrified, but I said, let's do it.
You peed your pants before you said that.
That's right.
but this is good because, you know, a lot of people, they beat around the bush, or, you know, they stay in either the friend zone or the flirt zone. And, you know, they're not straight up about what's going on, any interactions, conversations, the feelings, all of that. So that was good. You guys went just go straight to it, address it. What is this? What's going on? And then take the next steps from there. So what did you think about him, Alyssa, as this is unfolding?
I think he was very like even the conversations we were engaging in were always things around like the Christian life, or talking about like church, and our testimonies and things like that. So I really got to see his heart for the Lord, for his church and his passion for ministry. And in that I saw his character. Even if I felt like having that time of not being in person like stripped away those vague answers and really gave us like deep conversations where I really saw his heart and his love for the Lord, and that really like attracted me to him
Hmm.
without having to be without being in person at first, which is, yeah, you're marrying the person. So I think those conversations were pretty key, and I don't regret them.
Good stuff. Well, so what did your parents think about him?
My parent my parents were just curious of that, like what is his intentions, and getting
Good.
to know him, and knowing that it was more than just a physical attraction, but really seeing his care and love for me. Um, so yeah, they were all for getting to know him before anything was, before they gave their blessing on anything. Well, yeah, I think that it went really well, and we see the fruits of it now.
What did your parents think about her, Louie?
Yeah, so my parents, for the majority of our courtship, they hinged more on my articulation of who this girl was. And that's the thing that I knew from even from the get-go, because I said, this is I think being able to be around her and her family was far more paramount in the beginning to build this foundation. Because I mean, the thing is the truth, like um, parenting. This is the part of the podcast where I have to be careful. I may say something dangerous. No, but parenting is very interesting in the sense that I feel there is a difference, just the way that in the way that I have three older sisters, and the way that my parents react to certain things with my three older sisters has been different for the way they reacted to me as the only boy. And so I think seeing that, it gave me this experience, this ability to say, okay, um, there's more of a care that I need to put in an emphasis in making sure that I'm readily available, that I'm readily present, especially because I'm pursuing their daughter. And it's the pursuit that is, I mean, it's the man's pursuit, right? Us as men have to go pursue. And I think being able to see that is to say, yeah, like, so me being present, readily there, I think is much more important than, and I think it created this it communicated that to my parents to see too, is like to see how serious I took this relationship. I mean, even before I even knew I had the blessing to court her, there were multiple trips that I made to visit with her dad or to spend time with him and stuff like that, or things like that. And I think so my parents seeing that already sold them on Alyssa, to say, well, if Louie can do all of that for this girl, then this girl must be really special.
Must be legit.
That's it. So I think them seeing the seriousness that I had in cultivating this relationship, to where when they met Alyssa for the first time, it was like, hey, like we finally got to meet the person that we already love so much. So
yeah.
So how did you guys go about the relationship? Like the pursuit itself, the relationship with the parents, just not that it's a I guess a process necessarily, but what were some particular steps along the journey that you wouldn't mind sharing?
we went through a book.
Okay.
It's What He Must Be is by Vodi Bakum. So me and Alyssa's dad went through the book, I should say. And as we went through the book, this was early on before,
This is after the first time you met him,
Yep,
right?
this was after the first time I spoke with him, and he said, "Well, if you're serious about this, before I give you an answer on anything, I want to read a book with you." And so we read the book. We took it. I think there was like 12 chapters, so we took 2 chapters uh,
A week or
a
something.
week. Yeah, we met for 6 weeks, and I remember the first couple of times I thought in my head like, "Man, this is weird," and I've told him that too. Like I was like, "This is weird." Or I had even mentioned like if I felt like I remember going to who now is my best man, and was my best man in my wedding, and I shared with him after our first couple of meetings where I said, in just frustration, I said, "Man, sometimes it feels like I'm dating her dad, and not her. Like I get to see him more than I even get to see her." Um, so I think that goes to show where my heart was in the beginning. Like I was really, I didn't see the big picture. But then to be able to see there was a week that just clicked. Um, and if I had the book in front of me, I could have told you the exact passage. But um, the thing that I remember seeing is saying, okay, there's something special in this. And even now, like, um, if there's any awkwardness or anything like that, like in the past, like, so I went to um the church that she was worshiping at so I could meet everybody, right? I just at the time I had just met her mom and her dad, and then I remember I went to the church to meet
Oh, Julius.
the whole family, Julius, Jasmine, her sister, and I remember standing off to the back and just looking at everybody because they were like all conversing with one another, and I guess my face gave what I was gave away how I was feeling, because I looked at everything and I thought like, oh man, like I pray that these people like me. Like I was like freaking out. And I remember her dad, coming over and saying, "Relax, man, we like you. Relax." And so things like that, like I think I mentioned this to Alyssa before, like um aside from her, um and uh I love and care for her sister. I love and care for her brother. I love and care for her mom. I care for her niece and nephew. But there's this relationship that I feel that I like, this respect and this love that I have for her father. And I think it's in the sense that it was those conversations. It was those moments where I feel like I can't, like, we had them over. Now I'm just rambling, but we had them over. What was it? This last Sunday, we had them over, and sure enough, what ended up happening is me and her dad annexed away, and we're just chatting on our own. And I think that would not have been possible. I'm saying all of this to say, that would not have been possible if we did not build the foundation of saying, before I can trust you as my daughter, I need to know who you are. um, and I feel like we were intentional about that. So that was, yeah, that was paramount, I think, for myself. But anything for you?
And that
Um,
seems to be something that's like, is missing in our day and age. Like it's
Yeah,
just something that's neglected, overlooked, not even considered, right? Involving the parents, or even having that kind of relationship, right? With your, at the moment, potential future father-in-law. But yeah, so that's just
yeah,
lacking in our
even in
day.
movies, you always see it where it's like you meet the family when you're engaged. And I was like,
yeah,
Or
you're just
married in
wait.
some cases.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I was like, you're just robbing yourself of so many sweet
yeah.
blessings that you can have, that, we can look back at moments where him and Kate, like during the holidays, I think was one where I was just like, I sit back and like I just observed him with my family, and like this is the result of, cultivating those relationships early on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
you
just
guys got your parents involved, which is great. Uh, how did you go about getting your friends involved, or even pastors or whoever else?
yeah, I think I was quick to, even when we started talking, like sharing those things with those closest to me. Like I told Louie, I was like, I've always been an open book about those things, those personal things in my life. So, um, sharing with those closest to me, like, hey, there's this guy that keeps talking to me. Um, they would always like
Persistent
check
Louis.
up and
Yeah.
they'd always check up and ask questions and even see how we were doing and have us over. I think when we were in courtship, having certain couples or close
Mhm.
friends really have us over and like,
You and your wife included.
yeah,
Yeah. We remember.
ask like his friends asking me tough questions about my love for him and things like that, and then also my friends really asking him those questions really helped us to build a solid community that, I mean, we look back at our wedding and we were like,
Mm.
it made it all the more sweeter because I feel like everybody was on this journey with us. And so when we celebrated, everybody celebrated. So it was like
Yeah.
this sweet climax. And even more, when we have other successes in our life, we know that we have this solid community that will be behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you involve the community on the way to the altar, once you're at the altar, that same community can then really enjoy and celebrate what's happening before them at the altar, right? So yeah, it's great that you guys were able to involve so many people along the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really sweet. We look back at our way, we're like, yeah, everybody that we had there was so significant in the whole journey. They were like, we wouldn't want to celebrate with anybody else.
Yeah.
And you guys had a beautiful wedding, by the way. Just got to say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It felt
Yeah.
so short, but
Yeah.
they felt so short.
And I think too, the big thing also, segueing back of how I got my friends involved as well is, um, her dad encouraged me to do that as well. Um, he would say all the time, "Who are the guys that are holding you accountable? Who are the guys that are holding you accountable?" And I think that's what was paramount. Is I think the thing that we haven't stated yet, and maybe it's because we assume that the listeners would just assume this or something, but um, it is such a delight that both of our parents, that we're blessed to where both of our parents, have Christ in their life. Because I think before anything, like my interactions with Eddie and Noemi, who are their or who are Alyssa's parents, I knew that everything they had mentioned, everything that they were stating, wasn't in the sense for me to say, like they weren't saying like, I'm, um, I have my daughter's interests in mind first and foremost. Though that was true, they had their daughter's interests in mind, but they also had my interest in mind because they didn't see me as just some guy. They saw me as their brother in Christ. And I remember uh, Eddie mentioning, what if at the end of all of this, um, when we were reading the book, he said, "What if at the end of all of this, I don't give you my blessing? How would you feel?" I remember when I heard that. When I heard that at first, I was like, "Oh man, he's already written me off," like, and this is him just putting me down gently. But then I really I sat there and thought, and I said, if that's the case, I feel like I've grown spiritually. And I said, sure, I'd be really bummed. But I'd know that as much as and at the moment, I had told Alyssa that I was telling Eddie this as well. It's like before we had even finished the book, I already knew I loved this girl. And so I told him, I said, as much as I love Alyssa, it cannot compare to the years that you have invested in loving her. Um, so you saying, nope, this doesn't work. Then if I truly say that I love her, then I have to put my actions where my mouth is and say, well, if I love her enough, then if I love her this much, then I have to also be willing to know that those who love her more um, know better than I. Um, so I think that was paramount to see that because he would encourage me and say, you don't want to just be isolated in this bubble of just thinking these things on your own, because then when push comes to shove, when the marital issues arise, um, you're gonna need to have family to lean on, but also godly brothers that can help you, that can strengthen you. And so I think early on, that's what I did. Like I mentioned, the guy that was the best man in my wedding. I do a podcast with him. Uh, um, I would pitch it now, but we haven't. We're rehauling our podcast. It's going to be called Tolo Lege, or Take Up and Read. Um, but yeah, he's been someone that, I mean, through the very beginning. I think more than um, after our family, after our friend, our family, he's probably the person that we frequent, him and his wife's house, um, right after them. So um, because that's the thing too, is he wanted to make sure for the both of us that um, if either of you guys are slipping up in your vows that you made before God, and even before you even got married, and the way that your actions portrayed you, he let us know. You best believe me and my wife are going to call you out on that. So so I'm thankful for that.
Good, man. Good stuff. Any additional comments, thoughts, counsel you guys want to offer our listeners as it relates to this journey to the altar? Because the journey doesn't end at the altar, right? It just starts at the altar, but there's also this journey there. So the journey continues beyond the altar. Um, any other, whether it be an experience, your experience so far, uh, looking back, that you would offer our listeners?
Yeah, I think I think seeing like even when we went after the wedding, we were just driving back. That was our first time driving alone together. Um, and we were just reflecting the whole time on the whole journey, um, and all the things that we were encouraged to do, and also things that we put up, guardrails that we put up in our relationship to um, protect us as we pursued marriage. That I think I would encourage those in the courtship stage, um, or even thinking about the courtship stage. I would advise them to like really strategically place guardrails up for uh, the benefit of yourself spiritually, and also the benefit of the person that you're pursuing, because they reap beautiful rewards. Um,
Do you mind
they will.
sharing what some of those guardrails are, besides obviously involving your parents, friends, others, doing it in community, having people hold you accountable, and even in some cases, even reading a book that could be helpful along the way? What would be some additional guardrails you would recommend?
I mean, we even in our dating process, we always had somebody there with us, just to keep us accountable. So my sister would tag along with us to all of our dates, whether we were going to the movies or out to eat.
Or
And
Katie,
that
she was
was,
the third wheel.
but even now, it's like the three of us, we just hang out and we're just like, we're having fun.
Yeah.
So and I know that it was something that even she looks back on and she's like, I see the blessing of even being a part of that, that I know, you know, whatever the future, the Lord has for my future, I've been a part of a relationship that has strived to glorify the Lord.
Yeah, you guys have
And
been a model for Kaylee herself so that
Mm.
she can look for something like that.
yeah, so she really treasures that, and she's like, I already, yeah, like she told Louie at the wedding, she's like, I already thought you were my brother
Mm.
early on, even before you became officially my brother. Um, so I like cultivated this really sweet relationship, and is something that built into her. So I would like encourage them to like, yeah, take somebody under your wing that that you can just invest in, that maybe in a different uh season than you are when you're pursuing this relationship, but it'll really bless their season.
Because my prayer is that I hope Kaylee looked at that. This is what I continue to pray for myself in all of those moments, is uh, that we would be a good example to Kaylee. But also my prayer was um, that the Lord would strengthen me to model for Kaylee what it means, what it looks like when someone is pursuing someone biblically. Because when Kaylee comes to find the one that she's going to um, be in relationship with and have courtship with, I I want her to see that and say, I know what this looks like. Um, there's a standard that is set, and so it really brought me to a place of saying, like, make sure that I am one who stands approved before before all men, because I stand before God at the end of the day. Um, so I think if anything, um, people can look at that and say, like, man, that's an unnecessary stipulation. And I think, no, that is a stipulation for your good, brothers, specifically, because it puts more eyes on you. And when more eyes are on you, you either crumble, um, or you say, I'm gonna rise to the occasion. And I'm gonna say this is something that I'm gonna stand firm and care very well about. So I'm very thankful that Kaylee was in all of our early memories, for sure.
I'm sure she is too.
Yeah.
So you guys involve someone younger. You also involve people who, like peers, like your
Mhm.
age, and you also involve people who are older than you. So you guys were surrounded by uh,
Yeah, and I would
a
say, yeah, that
community
too,
from
like,
various age groups,
Yeah, a
yeah, you,
host of witnesses.
and there's wisdom in that, yeah,
Yeah,
and benefit
that's
to
what I'd
all.
say too. Like, yeah, involve yourself with older couples. I think
yeah,
there was so many um houses we went over where we were just like fascinated
Reloading.
to
yeah.
we were fascinated to know their story and the things that they did well and the
Yeah.
things that they struggled with, um to help us, that we even look at our marriage now, and we're like, when we come to the day-to-day things, what do they say, we recall those conversations or situations and learn from them.
But I think the best advice that we got, and I'm not just saying this because we're on your podcast, but at least for myself, the best advice that I received was one you gave us, when you had mentioned, like, the thing that matters the most is what you do in courtship now is going to be the foundation for things in marriage. And I remember hearing that, and it was from there that we said, we if we want to be a couple that reads the word together, that prays together, that grows in faith together, that is accountable to one another, then we have to start that now here in courtship. And I think it was shortly after that we started reading scripture together and praying together, because we said there's no need for us to wait, because if we wait, then we're going to have then the habits that we formed in courtship is going to just travel into marriage. So I think hearing that from you saying it to us now, I want to say it to you and your listeners right back, is build those, know that this courtship isn't just waiting for marriage. It's more than that. It's a time to really pave the foundation to make sure that that foundation is solid.
Yeah, cultivating the disciplines
Yep.
is essential. Um,
What would you say to folk who perhaps this has not been their journey, right? And had struggles or issues along the way, and they wish looking back, oh, I wish I would have done things that way, or like you guys, or whatever. What words of counsel, encouragement, whatever, would you have for folk like that who may be listening as well? Curveball.
Curveball. Yeah, I mean, I think just take counsel in the fact in the truth of the gospel, right? Like what Paul tells to the Corinthian church when he lays out all of these a list of these long sins that are heinous in our reading of it, and he ends it by saying, but such were some of you, but you were changed, you were washed, you were sanctified by the blood. And I think what that hope does for us is that it also shows us in the sense that, man, God is all of these things are possible for us to have this, what we have cultivated. I hope what has been conveyed was on the backs of people that didn't do it this way and have come to us and said, no, there's a better way. We weren't able to implement it, but you can. But it also comes with the knowledge of knowing too that the same people that told us these truths were people that I'm sure if they could go back in time, they would do it this way, but they didn't. But to know and look back and say, but yet there's still couples that we can look at and say, wow, they're a godly example. What that
there's grace for that.
Yeah, what that tells me is that it would be foolish of me to think that God's progressive sanctification only works in individuals. That God is progressively sanctifying both the individual and the family, the couple as a whole. And so I would say if this wasn't your story, that you didn't have this type of foundation, or you didn't put these guardrails up or anything like that, and you're married and maybe there's issues as a result of that, is to take solace and counsel in the fact that just as we said in the beginning, that God providentially brought us together, that same providence that God had put in our life is the same providence of God that God has for your life. And that he is working out an eternal weight of glory that we maybe cannot see. But God is working in and through them. So that's what I would say.
Good stuff, man. And then speaking of providence, did you guys ever think you guys would end up together? Looking back, like when you guys were playing together, looking back, like, man, I would have never thought that. We're making romantic music together now.
That's right.
I know we look back, we're like, man, it would have been pretty cool to tell our past selves some things in those moments when we first met. But I never would have thought, but I would never see it any other way.
Yeah.
So I see the beauty of providence. The Lord knew what he was doing.
And he ordained it as such, and here you are. So that's good. Yeah. Good, man. Yeah. Any last thoughts? And then for real, we wrapping this up.
Yeah. I would encourage, me and Alyssa are going through a book right now. We're working slowly through. We try to read
Sundays
every Sunday, every Lord's Day together. A book. There's a book that has been a blessing to us. It's called Yours Till Heaven by Ray Rhodes Jr. It's from Moody Publishers, but it's specifically, it's a biography, but it's a biography of the love story of Charles and Susie Spurgeon.
Yes, I've seen that book.
Yeah, so I think reading a book like that together and being able to see the good, the bad, and the ugly from someone, especially that was not just Charles, but Susie as well, two giants of the faith. It really does bring a lot of like, Lord, how can we imitate them as they were imitating you? I
Because
would encourage that.
Charles Spurgeon would be a mess without Susie.
That's it.
And it's ironic too, because I've referred to you as Baby Spurgeon in the past, so it's
That's
quite
right.
fitting.
I mean, look at that
Yeah.
picture right there.
That picture is just
Look at that. Yeah, that's
it's
you
uncanny.
in like 30 years.
That's right.
He's getting the beard that length.
Oh man.
I like to say I look like Spurgeon, but I think like Calvin,
Sproul. That's just Sproul, right?
or Sproul. I look like Spurgeon, but I think like Sproul.
Calvin would have been a better option, but that works too.
Yeah.
It's bro,
Yeah.
solid. That's good, man. Cool. Well, thank you both for joining us for this episode. It's been fun, and it's been a pleasure hearing your story, your journey, and thank you also for all the counsel that you guys have shared. I hope and pray that those listening do benefit greatly from it. And even one day, my own kids will listen to this and benefit from your story, as well as mine's and their moms. So thank you for sharing and spending time doing this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you for
guys.
having us on.
Yes, sir. Thank you both for coming on. We'll stay in touch, and maybe we'll have you guys on for another episode or so. So,
Nice.
all right,
Sounds
y'all.
good.
Yes, sir. Good night, and thank you all for listening. Have a good night. Peace.